Welcome to Vin and Mike, episode 81. Mike, 81.
Wow.
Terrell Owens, baby.
What's up? I know you always, whatever number it is, you come up with a player. I love that.
I try to do it. I forgot to do Jerry Rice last week, so I feel bad. But T.O. this week. How you doing, Mike?
Good, Vin. How are you? Always good to see you.
Good.
Another episode of Vin and Mike.
And I looked it up just so I knew. So our guest today originally appeared in episode 28.
That's unbelievable.
So that
felt like it was just yesterday.
If we do an episode a week like we do, he was on last year. That's almost a year to the date.
Incredible to show how much content we've put out, right?
Yeah, welcome him in. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so he's got his New Jersey pride on tonight, even though he's in Virginia. Bon Jovi there. One of my closest friends for many years. He loves the Yankees, but he loves to bash the Yankees. And after last night, I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot of that right now. Also a huge Knick fan. And just talking about that, I was thinking about you, Steve, with the Ewing finger roll, how pissed off we were when that happened. We couldn't stop putting that through our minds. And then back then, there wasn't really social media, but now you could see it everywhere. And I just get sick over it. So let's welcome to the show Steve Moses. He's back. Guys. He's back, as Vinny said. Welcome back. Good to have
you guys. It's a pleasure to be back. I was actually trying to think before I came on today how long ago it was that I came on. I thought it was actually around a year to the day. Because just thinking about it, I remember we talked about like some trade deadline propositions back then for MLB, and it's around the deadline again this year.
Yeah.
Mike, I definitely planned this. This is in honor of you, my shirt that I chose. I think everyone knows, or if you don't know, Mike is a huge 80s music fan. So this is a tribute to you, Mike.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of our songs are Instagram are 80s based, although I'm trying to get into new things as well. But yes, that's my genre. So Steve and I back in high school, you know, being the cool guys that we would drive and just listen to Saturday night 80s and rock out like Bon Jovi and Def Leppard. And yeah, those were some of our nights. Go to the diner, you know. Vinny, I'm sure it was similar to you back in the day.
Yeah. Bon Jovi, Def Leppard. I think I told you my Def Leppard story plenty of times when I was deaf for about 48 hours after being in the old Brendan Byrne Arena listening to them, and had that ring in your ear for like forever, and you thought your ears were going to ring until eternity. So, yeah, definitely remember all that stuff. So, Steve, what Mike has done recently for his music, he's trying to really incorporate Justin Bieber into his playlist.
Here's his Justin Bieber joke.
Just saying.
Come up with some new material.
I'm just saying we all know where the love is.
The funny thing is, I think you actually made a similar joke a year ago when I was on that.
Thank you, Steve. He has to come up with new material, but in fairness, I said he cried over Air Bud, so it's okay.
I was going to throw Selena Gomez out there, but I feel bad.
I will have to come up with new material myself.
But wait, before we jump into everything, yes. You know, KKFI, Kansas City, how you guys doing out there? Happy to always be on KKFI in Kansas City. Vin and Mike podcast.com. You know, go into our store, buy a T-shirt. You know, that money gets donated to a charity of our choice every month, and you know, we've been doing a lot of different charities. From cancer to DeMar Hamlin to I forget some of the others. Oh, the Joy Taylor Foundation and things like that. So, you know, all that stuff wherever we can throw a few dollars towards. That's what we try to do with each sale every month. So I appreciate everybody. But let's get right to it. I know we're gonna dive into it. I watched the game like a nut job that I am. I stayed up till midnight and just sat there watching it and saying to myself, this is not going to end the way it's supposed to. I'm like, this is the worst team in baseball we're playing that had 20 wins coming into the game. The highest run differential at the 80-game mark since 1900. The biggest negative run differential for a team. And we scored one run last week. One. You know, Thank God Aaron Hicks went 0 for 3 last night because we can't throw him out. But oh my God, I can't. Donaldson hits 1 home run, but it's like a meaningless home run with this guy, and I just can't. Steve, go ahead.
We'll get on this in a second. I think for everyone out there, I think before we even go through all the negatives and the pessimism about the New York sports teams, I think we do have to actually pay homage to an absolute incredible talent in Shohei Ohtani. Like what he did last night was out of this world. He had 10 strikeouts, 2 more home runs. The guy's leading the league in home runs, RBIs. Like he has a 3.02 ERA, 127 Ks. Like it's like holy F. Like it's amazing. Like just before we even get on the Yankees.
No, it should be talked about.
Like that's what's newsworthy. I mean, the Yankees are like, come on. I mean, are we glass half full, glass empty?
Well, me and Mike were talking about it. I don't know what show. How much do you pay Ohtani at this point? Because we know what Judge got, right? We know what Judge got, and Judge is 30. I think Ohtani's 28.
Yeah, he's like late 20s, I think.
Yeah, right? So I don't have it in front of me, but let's just say he's 29. Let's just say that. I mean, you got to think he's going to get at least 10 years, right? Maybe 12, right? Because you always have to throw in extra. But what is that round zero at the end? Is it 600? 12 years, 600, $50 million a year? I mean, is that what we're talking about at this point? I mean, the guy, like you said, he strikes out 10, he wins the game, and he hits 2 home runs in a 4-2 win last night. He's the entire team. Team. Nobody else had to do anything but him. It's a whole different world. Like, this is a team game with 9 players on the field, but when the one guy can pitch like that and hit the home runs,
right? You don't need the home runs. It's just crazy.
I think you're totally right. I mean, like he is someone. There is no comparison out there. I don't think. I mean, even people try to go back to like the early stages with Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth wasn't like he didn't do this on a consistent basis. No. He converted very early to being a hitter solely. Like right. There's literally nobody in the history of the sport who has ever done what Shohei Ohtani is doing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't know. You throw figures out there. I mean, 50 a year is probably underselling it at this point. By the time he ends up getting his contract. I mean, look at what like Trey Turner got, what Scherzer and Verlander and all of them got. They're being paid into their low to mid 40s, of age. And Shohei is what, in his late 20s? I mean, yeah, you're right. A 12-year deal I don't think is out of the question. 15-year deal.
Yeah, I mean, listen, even if the guy can't give you another 3 years of pitching, right? Let's just say he gives you 3 years of pitching, right? And then, his elbow or his, he can't. You still got a all-world hitting talent, right? A guy that's probably going to hit 50 home runs this year. He's on a different level. He's going to win his second MVP in 3 years and hit free agency, where he's making $30 million this year, right? That's what they settled on. It's an astronomical deal coming his way. The question is, who pays it?
Steve Cohen. Steve, think alike.
Listen, I mean, I think the Mets have got to make some moves here coming up, and we can talk about that in a little bit too. But in order, there's going to be every single team that has any kind of money in on him. From the Padres to the Giants to the Cubs to the Mets and the Yankees to the Red Sox. I mean, you could go through all these big markets and all these teams that have been paying guys, and there's a whole other guy, and that's including his current team and the Dodgers out there too, right? I mean, there's just so much attention to this guy right now. There's going to be so much money that's going to be thrown at him. It's going to be crazy.
I just can't believe 383 this month. 383. Like, come on. It's sick.
Yeah, he's unworldly. Like I said, there is absolutely no comparison to anybody else we have ever seen play this game. So yeah, I think his contract is going to be something that we talk about for he is the.
He's going to be a Met.
But he's going to be that generational talent that our generation will tell our grandchildren about. That this player was Shohei Ohtani, and like he will be written in like the encyclopedias that don't exist anymore online.
Yeah. I mean, if you think you have any inclination of getting him, and you're not anywhere near the playoffs this year, you have to dump salary at the trade deadline, make moves so you can fit him into whatever your budget is, right? I don't know, the Mets don't seem like they have a budget at this point, so who knows what they'll do. We know Hal has, extreme budget. He's even talking about salary cap now, so this is like a whole different like world for us. But Boston's involved. Like I said, Chicago will be involved. All the California teams will be involved. Texas is always involved somehow, right? They paid A-Rod the biggest contract back in the day, so why not pay this guy the biggest contract? And then Florida is an attractive place for a guy. Not that Tampa or the Marlins can pay for him, but no state tax, right? You look at that stuff too, like Houston. So for him, he could be even looking at that. Not that that matters when you're at that level, but who knows? You never know what these guys think. Plus, the amount of money he makes off the field, is so far ahead of Aaron Judge. Like Aaron Judge is second. I think they said it's like $6 million a year he makes in incentives off the field, where Ohtani's at like 30 or 35 million. So he's already making like 60, 65 million. Now he's going to make that, in 1 year, in just his baseball contract, right? 50, 60 million dollars. And it's going to be forever. It's going to be like forever. So
yeah. Steve, also think about the international aspect of it. I mean, he's getting international endorsements. He's spreading the game into multitude of different societies, countries, continents. I mean, it's I said, it's pick a figure. I think if you name any figure he could name, he probably will get.
Yeah. And what you said is so true, that it's so unique to see a pitcher have that kind of hitting ability. Where Aaron Judge, most people recognize him obviously for his hitting ability, home runs, right? Fielding's good,
really good.
But to have a pitcher to hit like this, we all, the trend is pitchers bat like shit. Like it's been like that. Most pitchers bat like shit. This guy is just an anomaly. It's just incredible seeing this.
Even the good hitting pitchers back in the day, right? You would hope they bat 250 when it was their time to be in the lineup.
That'd be great.
And they hit an occasional home run and drive in an occasional run. And they all bat ninth. This guy, is in the middle of every lineup, if not on the top. I like the way the Angels use him. They DH him constantly, so they rest his arm in between starts. He never has to throw the ball, in between starts. And then when he starts, he's the DH, right? It's the pitcher's spot becomes his. And then, if they have to take him out of the game, they make the double change that that they have to do, and they keep his bat in the lineup. So he's in the lineup every day, and he pitches every fifth day. And like Steve said, 10 strikeouts, 2 home runs. You can't beat it. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
I think MLB this year, what they should do is they should have at the home run derby have Shohei against Bartolo Colon.
Oh yeah, there you
as
go.
Like an exhibition before the actual event.
That's hysterical.
I want Daniel Vogel back there too.
Right, but to Mike's point, his 383 average in June. Do you still have those numbers on, Mike?
Yeah, let me pull them up.
Just let me.
So listen to this.
How many home runs does he hit in June? Because it seems like he hits a home run every day. 13
home runs and 26 RBIs, and on the mound, 7-3 ERA of like 3.02, leading all Major League Baseball, an opponent batting average which is 180. Come on.
Yeah, like they can't hit him, and he hits everything. That's what I said. When he pitches, Hall of Famer Mike Trout is not even needed, right? Like, think about that, because he's the guy that's going to pitch them, to the win and hit the 2 home runs on top of it. It's just crazy how good Mike Trout is. He's a step below this guy in overall ability.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's very scary. It's the
Michael Jordan effect.
Yeah. Which, by the way, on a side note, did you see the movie Air, Steve? Did you see it?
I have not yet. Have you?
Make sure you do. Yeah, it was good. It was good. I'm not going to give anything away. I want to get your perception of it, but I think you have to see it. So.
Okay.
Mike, did you go to the theater to see it?
No, I just watched it on Prime, but
okay.
It just, again, with the whole Michael Jordan, not just what he did as a basketball player, which we all know, but what he did for the NBA brand. And that's what it's really about, the Nike brand, and where they were in 1984, dead last, and how they got the endorsement from Jordan, and that was it. Took them all the way up to the top. So
I remember back in that day, around that time, it was Nike and Reebok, right? They were big competitors, and I remember I always wanted like the Reebok pump.
Oh yeah, they were because you thought you were going to jump high. Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
I even think Converse was popular.
Those were cool back then.
Right?
I wanted those too.
Was Converse?
Converse was big in Adidas, so those were the competitors.
Yeah. Now Nike. Now it's Under Armour with Nike.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the Yankees though.
Go ahead, Steve.
You brought it up. Like, come on, this is absurd. Like, well, I'll put it this way. As much as I am in marvel of Ohtani, I think you can really see now that the Yankees are a shell of themselves offensively without Judge. I mean, he impacts that lineup in so many ways. It's not even funny. It's so many uncountable ways. Just extending it, putting pressure on the pitcher. Even their leadoff man, whoever's hitting in front of him, is getting much better pitches to hit. Now, who are they worried about? You got Stanton batting like 180. He's had 6 home runs all year. He's been injured, but he still looks completely lost at the plate.
And you're stuck with his contract.
You already brought up Donaldson, who was hit his first home run in 5 years. I mean, what has he done? And he got into a tiffy with Boone that they're trying to throw underneath the bus and not make huge news about. I mean, it's a mess. And you got DJ, who I don't even know what in heaven's name is going on with him. Is he injured? Is he lost it at the plate? Is he? I don't even know what the issue is with DJ. But you need DJ, you need Stanton, you need. They're banking on Donaldson. I don't know why. I think that's an error to begin with in their team construction. But yeah, you're left with a bunch of these players that are not cutting it, and you lose Judge, and you've got no offense. They literally have the worst offense in the AL, but with the only one team that's worse than them is the team they're playing, the A's. That's the only team that's worse than them in the entire AL. It's amazing.
Yeah, and the A's have legitimately one or two guys that would be on major league teams, right? The rest of those guys, if you put them on a different roster, they would send them down to triple A. They're minor league guys. We have Anthony Rizzo's got 11 home runs in the active lineup. The second guy was Volpe that I saw last night with 10. I mean, and everybody wants to, get rid of Volpe and send him down. But meanwhile, we have nobody to drive in runs on this team anywhere. Gleyber Torres is just, I don't know what goes through him. Base running mistakes, fielding mistakes, all the stuff that goes on there. It's terrible. McKinney is a nice player, but he's not an everyday left fielder, right? Bowers is not an everyday left fielder. So we have no left fielder. We haven't had a left fielder since Ricky Henderson, right? If you look at the Yankees over the last 40 years, and Chad Curtis and Shane Spencer just inherited, and Ricky Leday inherited the '98 Yankees, but those were our left fielders back then too. We haven't had a left fielder since Ricky Henderson, or when Winfield played left field when Reggie was still.
Go way back.
You want to look at it, right? I mean, it's horrific. But besides that, Bader is a nice player, but he's always hurt. Like another guy, every other day, this guy's on the injured list. Stanton gets on a roll early in the year, and he goes to second and pulls the hamstring. We lose him for 6 weeks and hasn't been the same player, not even close in the month that he's been back. He's batting 114 or something. I mean, it's just horrific. And like you said, this is the New York Yankees. We're paying pretty good salaries for these guys to score runs, to do things, and we can't hit. And as good as Garrett Cole is, and getting Carlos Rodon back, which looks like he'll be ready, I think, next week. And if Severino gets better and if Herman can figure it out again, if Cortez gets healthy, it doesn't matter if you can't hit. I mean, you got to hit something. Judge, and we don't know if Judge is going to be back. That's the other thing. Why 3 weeks to tell us that he has a torn ligament.
That's kind of weird. So he's always very hesitant to actually disclose what his true injuries are. Like, I don't know if there's something that he doesn't want getting out in the media, but if you always think about it, whenever he's been injured, he's never given like a timeline from the very, like, when he actually sustains it. He's always like, yeah, we'll see what the tests show. Oh yeah, we're still waiting on it. We're seeing what the diagnosis is. And you're right. Why 3 weeks later? Like, the MRI was done probably after he fell into the wall, or the day later. Like, they knew what was going on from that scan. So, yeah, what is the deal?
Yeah, I mean, they're saying he's getting PRP injections, so he has some kind of ligament damage, right? You don't get those kind of
for a broken bone,
right? So we know it's some kind of ligament damage. All right, is it a bad sprain? All right, whatever. But to say it's a torn ligament in your toe, as Craig Carton said the other day, he goes, I didn't even know that we had ligaments in our toes, but it's true. It's like, what's the impact of a torn ligament? I know, breaking a toe, how that feels, and it's hard to move on it. But what's the impact of ligament damage compared to a broken bone, especially in your feet? I would think it probably more painful than something broken at this point. But again, I don't know. But like you said, when he dove in right field, what was that, 2 years ago, and he hurt his pelvis or whatever he hurt, he had the hairline fracture, and he was out for like 6 weeks, and I kept saying every week, oh, he's day to day. I mean, you're not day to day after a week. I'm sorry, you're not day to day after a week. After a week, you got to have some kind of timeline. Like, give us something, Don't tell us he's day to day, forever. Now it's like, oh, he might be back in August. What, might be back in August? Like, it's only the end of June. That's 40 games that we have until August 1st. So that drives me crazy. But
I want to say one thing. The difference with this Yankees team and last year, we had our friend Joey Gallo on the team, and he got a pass because the Yankees were playing so well. So it wasn't really alluded to. Now, this team, there's no hitting going on. So there's fingers being pointed everywhere. And the question is, what the hell do you do? Because we're getting nothing.
And the scary thing is, they can't hit, and they still have a winning record. So that's how good the pitching and the bullpen's been. Really, more than anything.
And that's what I was saying. You want to do a glass half full, half empty approach to it. Like, yeah, the pitching has been great. It's been awesome. Like, Matt Blake is incredible what he does with the staff and gets the most out of these guys. Like, had anyone heard of like Ian Hamilton before this year? No. And Cordero, he came out of the middle of nowhere. Like, they're getting these no-name guys from the minors to come up and have like really meaningful impact on their team, and it's amazing. Even Herman, who's like probably a fifth starter at best, has gone. He almost threw a no-hitter the other month.
I like the way Clark Schmidt's even been.
Yeah, he's rebounded.
He's been out of his role the entire year. He's supposed to be, pick up 3 innings in the middle of a game, when you need someone, and they stretched him out, and now he can give us 5-6 really solid innings every start, and he's figured out his curve, his slurve, and all this other cutter. He's figured this all out. And you're right. I think Blake's got to get credit for it. The one thing about Hamilton, why doesn't he wear an undershirt under his jersey? I don't, he looks weird out there when he pitches with no undershirt under there. I'm like, dude, like, put on like.
You got to call the front office.
I think that should be part of the
very important question.
It's like I'm waiting, like, what is this guy's deal with? Like, no, and he looks like a kid from the '90s that was angry at the bars and clubs that wants to punch him. That's what he reminds me of.
Does he remind you?
You? What's that?
Like you, Beck?
No, I'm never angry. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to comment there. I'm not going to go there.
No, it was good to, even like last night, like Canely came in, did the job, and like they did the job. Like, all the guys came in and did the job, but just the lack of hitting. And then the changes in the field, IKF comes in and Higashioka, and I'm like, these guys can't hit normally. Like, they're not going to like come through here. And then Glaber gets the nice leadoff hit, and then Donaldson strikes out looking. Like it just
there's no momentum.
There's nothing.
Oh, it's just so much energy out of you. And then Higashioka comes up in that situation. It's like, he's not a big time hitter, and it's just like, we know where we're never going to hit. We're never really going to hit at catcher, right? We're never really going to hit there. So that should be our number 9 hitter. Figure it out. Always should be able to pinch hit there because both guys can really catch. Like, you don't worry about that. So it always should be an area where we can have someone pinch hit late in the game and everything. That's where we need to get better, at shortstop, at third base. I don't know what, like LeMahieu, right now it's looking like one of the worst free agent signings we've ever had. And meaning that when we renewed his contract, when he became a free agent, right? There was some speculation he was going to leave, if you remember. We're like, we can't let him leave. The guy just led the American League in batting average and all this stuff. Now you look back at it, it's like, we should have let him go. It was funny. I was listening to that rant by Don LaGreca. I don't know if you listened to the whole thing, right? The Ed Kranepool rant.
He's the best at that.
When they were saying lifetime Yankees and they mentioned Gary Sanchez in that conversation, and I'm like, Gary Sanchez?
No, Sanchez. He's off in San Diego. He's actually hitting some pop out there. He's had a couple of home runs.
He's been on like 5 teams this year already.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny. So I think about like is Volpe really a lifetime Yankee at this point?
I want him to succeed. I think he has.
Of course we do. I want him about 300 lead off and hit 20 home runs and steal 40 bases every year. The way baseball's built now with these larger bases, you can't throw over too much. The pitching clock, all that, it really benefits a base runner that knows how to run the bases. Hey. This kid knows how to run the bases.
And I was going to say,
steal 40 bases.
And I was going to say, with Aaron Boone, there's good and bad, but one thing he's always been is a player's coach, and he'll try to really look out for his players and give them the benefit of the doubt. I have to respect that about him too. Sometimes it could be at a fault, but Volpe, he's giving him a good shot. So it's probably better that no one's really batting well because it's not really pointed at him right now. It's everyone. They're not getting any kind of production.
Well, Josh Donaldson got the big X on his back. That's for sure.
You know who else has been good as a relief pitcher is Marinaccio. He's been real good. I like him.
I like him a lot.
Yeah. I think he's from somewhere local in New York around here.
Yeah. He's Ralph Macchio's cousin. No, I'm just.
Oh, it's Bader. Bader's from the Bronx, right?
Is he really?
Oh. Yeah, he went to high school in the Bronx. Volpe, as we know, went to Del Barton.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, I was trying to figure out. He went to high school with Al Leiter's son.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. I was trying to figure. I knew he went to high school with another big prospect, and that was the guy. He's struggling, by the way, Jack Leiter.
Mike, didn't you have a lot of good close tennis matches with the Del Barton crew in high school?
Yeah, we played them. I didn't get a lot of playing time, but I was pretty good. I was pretty good at tennis. I was.
Mike was. Mike
I'm trying to get him to watch Wimbledon starting July 3rd. I've been pushing for him to watch.
We should go to the U.S. Open. We should go to the U.S. Open this year.
Yeah, you got $50,000.
Come on. I don't think tickets are that bad. Oh, they're bad?
It's the biggest revenue.
Yeah, but I didn't think it was crazy. All right.
In sports, it's number one. Number one revenue. More than the Super Bowl. Even though it's 12 days.
Oh, that's a shame because I know you could go to the different stadiums and watch maybe the first round.
I think if we go early, like you get first round.
I'm not going to go to the freaking championship.
I want to go if Djokovic is going for the Grand Slam, I want to be in the crowd. I want to sit next to Serena Williams and Venus, right in between.
Save your money for Jets Raiders, all right?
Imagine me sitting in between Venus and Serena Williams at the U.S. Open. The amount of airtime I would get with the Vin and Mike podcast T-shirt on. You know how good that would be for us?
It would be a great photo op, I'll tell you that.
You guys will be working with Stephen A. Smith after that.
That's right.
That's right.
Stephen A. would have us on his podcast. I
like him. He's growing on me. I like Stephen.
Really?
I do.
Too much anger.
Podcast every day. He does his show and then he does a podcast. He's a wild man. Let me tell you, that's a lot of work.
A lot of work.
especially does his podcast solo. It's a lot of work. Mike knows.
Mm-hmm. Oh, do we lose him?
He looked frozen, right?
Mike's having a seizure. No.
He throws up. He's going to have to come back. Oh, my, we lost Mike. I wonder if he lost his internet.
It's all good. We can hold on without him.
Yeah. Mike, when we see you, come back. We're going to have to change this episode. I'm going to change it. Vin and Steve, episode 1 on the thing. So,
what do you think they do? Like, I mean, I don't even know what to say about like where to go with this. I mean, I think
so you got to
if they expect Judge to come back, and I think they have to have a real close dive into like how long they really expect him to be out. If he's not going to be back anytime soon, then I don't want to say it this way, but like, do you have to honestly consider trying to retool? We don't like the word rebuild in New York, but like, do you our prospect pool has definitely been depleted with the amount of trades they did over the last couple of years. Like maybe this is a year you just scrap with injury because injury is and everything, and you try to retool the farm system and almost retool again. I don't know. It's a thought.
Yeah, I mean, here the biggest problem with baseball right now, and when it comes to rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it, is the third wild card, right? So automatically you got seven teams that are in the playoffs, right? In the pennant race and all this stuff. So with that, hey, he's back.
I hope it works. I don't know what happened. It was an internet issue.
Internet went down.
Thanks for carrying on the show, Steve.
It's Vin and Steve, episode 1 with our guest Mike. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hi, Vin. Nice to meet you.
We're talking about exactly what we think the Yankees should do. And I said one of the big problems is 7 teams make the playoffs, right? So like the Yankees are in the playoffs right now.
Without hitting.
They're one of the wild card teams. Is it a World Series team? Hell no, not even close, right? But how do you say, all right, we're going to trade, this guy when you're in the pennant race? And when, how do you sell that to anyone? Now, the fan base might say, all right, we need to do that. But as we know, once you have your foot in the door, anyone's got a shot, right? Miami Heat have proven that this year, right? They got to the NBA Finals as an 8 seed, as a play-in, as essentially a wild card. And, with that,
the Phillies made the series last year.
What's that?
The Phillies were a wild card team too, weren't they? The
right.
Last one,
yeah. I mean, so you take that all into consideration, and I really don't know where they go. But I will tell you can't have 2 shortstops, right? So to me, if you're going to stick with Volpe, you trade Peraza. If you don't think Volpe is going to be the guy you want, Peraza, you trade Volpe. I think at this point you can't do it unless, like you said, Steve, on a text last week, is Peraza playing third base at all? Now he's been hurt a little bit. He's been banged up. So, do you make him your third baseman? And then now I would say Cabrera is probably someone you look to trade, but I think you look at him, is he major league ready? What are you going to get for him? So it's all that stuff. I think the big thing, Cole's been great.
Yep.
You got to hope Rodon comes in as that number 2 guy and really pitches the way he pitched, the last couple of years. Severino keeps getting stronger and better, and you rely on the bullpen. And if Judge doesn't come back, I think you're going to have to think about making a trade to get a big bat in that lineup. Now, where that trade comes from, I have no idea. Because at this point, nobody's getting Ohtani because the Angels, are the number 1 wild card team, probably close to taking over the division. I didn't look at the updated standings, but they're playing, like the best team in baseball, right? So they're not going to trade Ohtani, and I don't know if they would trade him if they had 20 wins.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Like in order to get Ohtani, the Mets and the Yankees would have to trade every big prospect that they have, right? So all the Mets would have to trade the catcher, the third baseman, the pitcher. The Yankees would have to trade Dominguez and Peraza and this guy and the pitcher that they traded Joey Gallo for, who was all of a sudden throwing 100 miles an hour and got moved up to AAA. So in order to get this guy, you're gonna have to trade like 8 guys, right? You're literally gonna have to trade your entire farm system. So it doesn't even make sense for you to trade him, especially if you can't sign him, right? You can basically
if you don't have control over him, it's totally not worth it.
Yeah. So really at this point, he's not even touchable. So where do the Yankees look to add a bat? They're talking about what was the guy that played for the Dodgers, the left fielder. He went to Bellinger. They're talking about like him to come in. But
he's not moving the needle.
Yeah. I mean, we're not gonna get Ronald Acuna, right? It's not gonna happen. There's no one there's no one tradable out here. So I don't know. I think at this point they're gonna roll the dice, and you might see Dominguez up in September at this point.
That's very possible.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. I don't know. It's very frustrating knowing that all the years you complain about pitching, and I think they finally got some really good pitching, especially Cole at the top of the rotation, and now we can't hit. Like, we can't hit for jack. Like you would have thought, like, coming into the season with no shift, Rizzo would benefit from it, LeMahieu would benefit from it, Judge would benefit from it, Stanton would benefit. Like, all these big pull hitters would all benefit from it. Torres, right? And you would say this team's going to score 6-7 runs a night, on a good night, and 4 runs on a bad night. Meanwhile, they can't score more than 1 or 2 runs.
Against the Athletics, you get 1 run. Come on.
Against, the worst run differential in the history of baseball since 1900. The most negative runs in over 123 years. That is an insane number, and we scored 1 run. We gave them a +1.
Are you going to stay up and watch the game tonight?
Probably.
Really? That's a true fan.
It's like when I scream, right? Like, it's during football season, I'll scream about the Raiders. I call Derek Carr every name in the book. Josh McDaniels. This guy's a bum. That guy's a bum. Yeah. And what am I doing on a Thursday night? When I got a big meeting at 8:00 in the morning on a Friday, but the Raiders are on Thursday night. I'm up till whenever that game is over.
He'll bash the Raiders like, Derek Carr's the worst. I'm never going to watch. And then, what are you doing? Oh, I'm watching the games. That's how true fans do it. Yeah.
The good thing is you don't have to worry about Derek Carr anymore.
No. It's not.
I'll tell you.
He's got Jimmy G.
Let me tell you. I'll tell you as a Jets fan, I've been saying it. Mike.
Go ahead, say it. You've been so complimentary, please.
Aaron Rodgers is the guy for you guys at this point. You didn't want Derek Carr. I know all you Jet fans were talking about, we're going to get Carr. I'm like, you don't want this guy. You don't want him. You got Aaron Rodgers. It's like again, Craig Carton said it the other day. He said it's like the sun has come out and the sun is Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? It's like you feel
his attitude's been so great, by the way. Like going to all the New York events, like he wants to play. He needed a change.
Steve, I know you're a Giant fan. I want to hear real quick. Saquon Barkley. What are your thoughts there?
It's hard. I think he's playing the game because the financial game, trying to leverage his position and where he's at with the negotiations. And it's hard. You only put your eggs in one basket with signing Daniel Jones, and it's hard. I think it's one of those things where that position is not highly valued long-term wise in the NFL. And even though Saquon is an unworldly talent, not in the same realm by any means in comparison to like what Ohtani is to baseball by no stretch, but he's one of the top 5 running backs probably in the league. But at the same time, he's injury prone. The position is injury prone. He's got a long, a half-life of probably another couple of years, and you're not going to invest that much money into that position. It's nothing against Saquon. So I think he's going to have to come down on his demands. I just don't think it's either. I don't think it's going to get anywhere. I don't think it's even from the Giants. It's anywhere in the NFL. Like, I think you have to be more realistic about what the expectation is for the position you play. It's like any profession. If you go out and you're getting an entry-level job, like you're not going to be making, $500,000 a year. That's just not the expectation. So running backs are not going to make what he's asking for. I just think he's going to have to adjust his expectations.
Yeah, especially, I look at last year's Super Bowl teams, right? So Kansas City had Isaiah Pacheco as their lead back. He was drafted in the 7th round, rookie, Rutgers, right? The Eagles used, 3 running backs, as a big rotation all season throughout the Super Bowl. Even their first-round pick, Miles Sanders, they didn't re-sign him, right? He's gone,
They're replaceable.
Yeah, so just like that. So I think it's a big problem for running backs, coming into the league. There's only, one Christian McCaffrey, right? It's like the only guy to do that. We'll see how good this kid Robinson does with the Falcons. Like, is he going to be the kind of guy that reignite the position, basically, right? Like, come in and steal the show and make the Falcons a playoff team without, with Desmond Ridder as your quarterback. Right. That's like the kind of thing I think would help the position, but it's a quarterback-driven league, and it's about protecting the quarterback and hitting the quarterback. Your investments now are on your offensive and defensive line, your quarterback, and your one big receiver. Everything else is gravy, right? It's like, all right, like Andy Reid said it when Tyreek Hill was leaving. I got Pat Mahomes, I'm good. He knew he could just fill in the blanks and figure it out, because he has Pat Mahomes. And Travis Kelce. Let's, tell people, let's not forget that too. But
gotta throw to somebody.
Yeah, you got to, someone should eventually. All right, Mike, here it is. The big news, and I saved it for the end because I know it's something that you like to talk about a lot, and we've discussed it because we discussed it with Calvin Ridley and how it worked with him and all these Detroit Lions players that all got suspended. So coming up supposedly this week, Indianapolis Colts cornerback and kick returner Isaiah Rodgers expected to receive season-long suspensions for violating NFL's policy on gambling. This is from Adam Schefter. There's supposedly possible that he bet on Colts games. I'm not saying which way he bet on it. They're not saying. Supposedly Rodgers acknowledged the situation on social media early this month, says he takes full responsibility for his actions. Okay. Before we get into all that, I'm just going to give you 6 key rules of the gambling policy that the league is going to emphasize. Okay. Number 1, don't bet on the NFL. All right. So they're already in violation there. Number 2, don't gamble at your team facility while traveling for a road game or staying at a team hotel. Okay. Number 3, don't have someone bet for you. Number 4, don't share team inside information. Number 5, don't enter a sports book during the NFL playing season. So that means you can't go bet on your New York Knicks while you're, home, right? And number 6, which I felt was very interesting, because I know a lot of guys play season-long fantasy football, but don't play daily fantasy football. So they're not allowed to play daily fantasy football, which I'm guessing has something to do with, knowing players are hurt and this guy's going to play this week. It's all about the integrity of the game, right? All right, Mike, go ahead. Let me hear your spiel.
The bottom line is, I think those are all legitimate, but for each player, it seems like they get a different sentence, right? And there has to be a double standard, like, what's really over the line here? And I don't think what helps is every commercial out there is about a sports book, and on TV now they advertise every second, like, oh, here are the points. You see all the point spreads on TV, right? So if you're an NFL player, NBA player, it's very hard you have your rules, but where do you draw the line, right? So what it sounds like here is just don't bet, especially on your own sport. That's not too hard to follow, right? Yeah. But as far as the fantasy stuff, I get it because, you get someone who's wise. They're going to be like, I'll stay injured. I'll stay injured another game, or I'll play like this or get this many points, or they'll call their friend and be like, I'm going to go for 50 yards today. It's just, how much can you really control, right? And we even go back to the days where you had people were fixing points in the NBA. It's so hard to control everything, right? So I think they're trying to do a really good job, Vinny. And as you said, you got to keep the league. You got to have it's the respect of the league. But with that said, when you have people that do physical harm to somebody and they get a 2-week suspension, and then you suspend someone for a year for gambling. That's bullshit. And you know, if the NFL, that's what bothers me. If you want the NFL to have the credibility and respect, and it does a lot of good things for people, it does, that you can't go to someone and say they're suspended for a year, but then someone who's admitted to do assault and battery, they're suspended for a couple weeks. Where are you drawing the line? Who's deciding that? What's the standard, right? Practice what you preach. That's what bothers me.
Before you chime in, I just want to say one thing. I think we discussed this, that because somebody caused a physical assault or did a crime, will you stop watching football? And usually that answer is no. But if people know the integrity of the game has been messed with, right? And they can no longer trust if Saquon Barkley is actually going to score that touchdown, or did Aaron Rodgers throw that pick on purpose, or did this guy not get that sack because the spread is 3. All those little things that can impact the integrity and not let people watch the game is where the NFL looks at it. Is it right or wrong? That's up to you to decide. I'm on the same boat with you. You're committing something in a violation of a policy. All those policies, suspensions and all that should be the same. You violated an NFL policy, you get suspended for the same amount of time, whatever it is. It's like going to school, right? You were late for class, you get Saturday detention. You skipped class, you get Saturday detention. You didn't hand in your homework, you get Saturday detention.
Yeah, Vinny, that's good. I mean, it's before we send it over to Steve. Right. I think players would be more prone of listening if you knew what the punishment was instead of it's all over the place. Like if you bet on the NFL, it's an automatic 6-month suspension. Period. Right.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it shouldn't be if you bet from home, because the first rule, which I read, is don't bet on the NFL. Right? So everybody that's gotten suspended is bet on the NFL. Why Jameson Williams got 6 games and this guy's getting 8 games, this guy's getting a year, and why Calvin Ridley got a year when he was home, placing bets. All this stuff is crazy. I will tell you, I'm 100% sure, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm 100% sure that you go in to an NFL locker room and you open up your phone and you connect to their Wi-Fi, or however you're connecting your phone, your laptop, or whatever, that they are definitely tracking what you're doing. Cookies. They know that these guys are, from their IP addresses, are logging into sports books, sports websites, and that's how they're really essentially catching them, in team facilities and all this stuff. They can't catch you at home. They don't know if you're betting from, but how often are you going to just go home and place a bet on the Sunday game? You're placing that bet from the hotel, from the visiting locker room, from the home locker room, because you're waiting to hear about the injuries and all this stuff. Like us, right? 11:30 comes, Lamar Jackson's not playing this week. All right, I'm all over Cleveland, whatever. So it's the same concept. So that's why they're getting caught, and that's the thing that they don't really understand is, dude, you're entering a facility where they're going to track your devices. Big Brother is watching you.
You're going to get caught nowadays with all the technology. But I want to hear from Steve. Go ahead. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. Go.
I think it's a hard topic, because I feel like there is a double standard. I totally agree with you, Mike. I mean, you made a very, very fair and I think probably accurate assessment that the reason why they have different suspensions and higher suspensions for the gambling is the integrity of the NFL. And NFL is very, very well aware of that. They're very prone to wanting the product that they're putting out on there to be as authentic as possible. And you can't have any sort of possibilities of throwing games or anything like that. The one weird thing that I would say is, what if you've got, let's say, a guy who's been thrown in jail or at least accused of like domestic battery or actually some sort of physical harm? I would also say that personality is also probably prone to, maybe doing more personal fouls, maybe doing helmet to helmet hits on the quarterback. There is a safety issue too for those types of players as well. So I agree with you that there should be higher standards and higher punishments for the people who are being put in jail or being accused of potential verbal and physical assault as well. I don't know. I mean, one other thing I have a hard time understanding is, does it really matter if, Tom Brady last year goes and like bets on the Knicks, for instance? How does that affect the Patriots or the Buccaneers or any other NFL team? Like, I don't know. But where do you draw the line? I think that's the question. I agree completely. You don't want these guys betting on themselves. You don't want them betting on NFL games. But does it really matter if he puts a bet in on a different sport?
Like, yeah, and to Mike's point, and even for us, right? We do DraftKings commercials. We did Viggy Bets commercials. We do our own sports betting during football season and give picks and all that stuff. It's part of the American sports culture now. And to your point, Steve, there is no harm in Tom Brady betting on the Knicks during football season. But I think it's just they don't want them even dabbling into a sports book app, right? They don't even want them to see what the odds are, why are we only 3-point favorites over this team? We're going to win by 21 today. I'm going to put 10,000 on myself. They don't want them to even do that, right? Or and the big problem is they don't want them to go, man, my shoulder is shot. I can't throw the ball over 10 yards, and we're -7. We're not winning this game, And they go the other way where they bet against themselves, and I think that's where it gets very, very scary. So they don't even want to give them the temptation of looking at a sports book. That's why they decide that way.
It would be embarrassing. Like you found out someone got caught betting on an XFL or USFL game. But I have to address something because I just got a text message, so I'm going to look and you're probably watching right now. Our friend Brian, who listens, also a big Yankees fan. We got to get him on. Big Yankees fan. Okay, yeah. He just said to me, "Don't oversell Air. It was good, not great." Let me address this. Okay, I thought it was really good. And I'm not going to give away the movie, Steve, because you still have to watch it. But the one thing that was missing, I would say, is the presence of Michael Jordan actually having commentary. They based it around the shoe brand, the people that were involved with the shoe company. But to me, it was a pretty inspirational movie and defined what the NBA was at that time and how Nike really had to, take the next step for shoe endorsements. So, Brian, I know you're a movie buff. I'm not going to give it 5 stars or anything, but I thought it was very good. So I hope
you're not giving it a Rudy ranking, right?
I'm not giving it a Rudy ranking or Remember the Titans. No, I'm not going to give it that kind of ranking.
How would you rank it compared to Bud Air?
Well, first of all, say the right name. It's Air Bud.
Air Bud. Whatever the name of the movie was.
Don't insult the greatest movie.
Show respect to Vinny because it's a very hard movie for him to watch. A dog playing basketball, and you got to show him respect. Okay?
It's like calling Justin Bieber Justin Timberlake,
We have to do the sports you have to come back. Evan was on the show too. We did a whole show about sports movies, and it was a lot of fun. So we got to do that again soon, especially now that we're in summer and our prime time is football. So things are kind of slower right now with baseball. So yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah, baseball. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like baseball doesn't officially kick into gear until after the trade deadline, right? Because you don't know where your team is going to be August 1st. And like I said, with the extra wild cards and all that. So as you know, I rant and rave constantly about the Yankees, even when I think they were at 54-20 last year, whatever their record was. And then the whole second half, that was the worst baseball. That was worse baseball then than it is now. And I think that a little hangover carryover for fans. That's why I think people are so upset. Mm-hmm. On top of them, they just can't hit. But I think this team ultimately has enough pitching and enough bullpen to be competitive, but they're not going to win if Aaron Judge is not in that lineup and if Stanton, Rizzo, and Torres aren't contributing as well. You need all those guys to contribute, and we have a few months still. Maybe they all get hot in September, October is what we hope for, but at the same time, they always find themselves on the injured list. All of them, every single one of them, somehow, some way. And it just gets a little frustrating at the end of the day. Mike, it just does.
It does. I have one more thing for you guys. This is very interesting. I don't know why I thought of it. So going back to the Yankees, there's 7 Yankees that they say should be in the Hall of Fame that are not really strong players.
Who's they?
Who's they?
We have the following list: Don Mattingly.
This is Mike's assessment.
Whose list is this?
Mike's list.
So, this is a list that they made that are. I have to look because it was just on the internet. But all these people are good players, so just listen. All right, stop.
This is Mike's list.
Don Mattingly,
okay.
Bernie Williams, Roger Clemens, A-Rod, Andy Pettit, Thurman Munson, Craig Nettles. Out of that list, Mike's list or whatever list it was, name maybe 2 of them that you think like this is ridiculous they should be in. Or do you feel like
Clemens and A-Rod are the ridiculous ones, but they won't get in because of steroids?
Put them out. That's exactly why.
Right. So I mean that's ridiculous. You got one of the all-time greatest hitters and all-time greatest pitchers, but they're tainted, right? So you throw them out. Greg Nettles is not a Hall of Famer.
No.
His batting average is terrible. So he's not a Hall of Famer. Munson and Mattingly both shortened, So when you look at Hall of Famers, you really look at a 10-year period. And it's a shame because Mattingly for a 3-4 year period was probably the best player in baseball, but then his back got injured. So he's a little short there, but you never know, as these guys go through these.
Question for you, though, with Mattingly.
Yeah. If
he would have won a championship during those years, would it be a no-brainer? So that's what was missing too, right?
And a second MVP.
Yeah.
He was the best hitter in baseball in '86, but Clemens won the MVP on top of the Cy Young.
If you think about it,
we should have won the MVP.
It's crazy. If the Yankees had pitching in the 80s, they would have done such damage because you had Henderson, Winfield, Mattingly. It's just you had some really great hitting, but there was no.
Again, I forget the exact year and I forget the exact number. It's either 84, 85. And he drove in 145 runs, I want to say.
How about his grand slams in it?
RBI.
Yeah.
I think that was the only time in his career that he hit grand slams. I don't think he hit another grand slam besides that run.
That was insane.
Yeah. It was like a grand slam. What did he hit? 6, 7, something.
I love what Scooter called those games. Holy cow, Mattingly did it again.
I like the call in '95 when he's up in Yankee Stadium in the Seattle playoff, and he hits the home run into the bleachers, and I think it was Charlie Steiner where he said, "Hold on to your seat."
Yeah,
right.
Roof is falling.
The stadium, and that they say to this day, a lot of people that went there, that was the loudest, and it was the scariest moment for them because the actual stadium was literally shaking. Because it was so loud and everyone was so pumped up. It's one of the best Yankee moments ever. Yeah. It's a shame they couldn't win that series. Continue.
That's what Steve and I were like.
He got over 400, I think, in that series as well.
When we first followed them.
Yeah, my heart was broken that series. And I hated Seattle forever. And now, funny thing is, my brother lives out there. I have to go and listen to the Mariners for the next week and a half when I go out
there. Who are the other guys? So Munson, Mattingly, Nettles, A-Rod,
Clemens, Bernie.
I think Bernie is very underrated. He's just underrated.
Yeah.
You look at his numbers. First of all, he played during the steroid era, so he gets a little ding there. But his numbers are just consistent. And he played center field on 4 championship teams for the New York Yankees. So I think he's a little underrated. Now, again, his total numbers and package probably don't speak Hall of Famer, but at the same time, there's guys that are still on the ballot that get votes that you say, well, Bernie was as good as this guy, right? Like he got off the ballot pretty quick.
You know who's eligible this year is Ron Guidry, actually. So that'll be interesting.
For what? Like the
Hall of Fame.
No, but for like the veterans, right?
Veterans, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, again, nice little 3-4 year clip. Like you look at like 76, 77 to like 80, 81, and then whoop, falls like off the cliff,
It's kind of like what Johan Santana was. Injuries derailed his career, and he's probably not going to be considered to be a Hall of Famer, but he had like a 3 or 4 year period where he was the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. Tim Lincecum, right? He won 2 Cy Youngs, probably will never be considered for the Hall of Fame.
It's crazy, and I know Steve, Vinny and I always talk about the Knicks, how Ewing really didn't play with any all-stars, right? So you look at the rafters during that genre, and no one's going to get in. Starks is not going to get in. Oakley's not going to get in. But talking about injuries, right before Ewing came in the league, you had Bernard King, and if he didn't get injured, man, he would be on those rafters. He would be. I mean, he was phenomenal. But what Ewing had to do, and what people don't remember, is that he wasn't like Michael Jordan playing with Scottie Pippen and Harden. He didn't have that. He's not even close.
Yeah. The best players he played with is after he was out of his prime, right? Like Allen Houston and Charles
Freewell. Yeah.
All right.
It's sad. It's so sad that he never got his championship. I feel for him, and
Even Mattingly sucks.
I think Ewing is more respected now than he's ever been because of
how the game's changed.
Just the way where those Knicks teams were, and getting to finals and being in the playoffs and being in Eastern.
He made 10 straight years in the playoffs.
You know what I mean? Like the guy did it all himself. Like when you really look at it, he really did it all himself. Look at these teams now. They're looking to get not only they're looking to get 3 players, they're looking to get 4, right? Like look at Phoenix, right? They've added Kevin Durant, Beal, Booker, and now they're saying they're not trading Ayton, right? So like Ayton's going to be the 4th guy, right? Like that's a massive 4. Look at Denver has a big 4 now, right? The Celtics are looking at got a big Ewing was a big 1. The rest of the guys were 5s and 6s. He had no 2, 3s, and 4s.
True.
They drafted again. I don't even want to go into it.
Let's not go on a rant right now.
After he was drafted, look at every other draft pick for 40 years. There's not besides maybe Mark Jackson.
That was early on.
Who they traded. There's not another guy you want even the draft. Like Frederick Weiss. They tried to the other day. They were saying, Frederick Weiss was Wemby before Wemby. Well, are you freaking kidding me? The guy was nothing before nothing. Nobody even knows who he was. Did he ever play?
No.
He never played, right?
Never played.
I don't think he ever came. They drafted a guy that didn't even come, and then before Ron Artest, they drafted him. Who was from St. John's, from New York.
Yeah.
Freaking unbelievable.
Well, great show.
Anyway, real quick.
Go ahead. You have to say something.
Very, very fast.
Yes.
Did you see the Spurs put out the Wemby video of him, in the uniform taking shots, and he missed every single shot. And then they go and take it off. Dudes, why are you putting it out there to begin with?
Why do you put it on there to begin with? So dumb.
He missed every shot. Everyone. The only ones he made were the little dunks. Every jump shot he took. I'm like, of course he's missing every jump shot. He's been up for 48 hours straight. Yeah. The kid's 19 years old, exhausted. Of course everything is short. Like, come on. And then you put it out? Like, just put him out. Show one video of him dunking, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Like, you embarrassed yourselves already. Oh, my God. Okay. Steve, we told you we'd be going for about 40 minutes. We're an hour and 5 minutes in because, there's a lot to talk about and a lot of fun. It was a good, really, really good show. Mike, I did not write my commercial. So I'm gonna because we crunched a lot of stuff today, so I'll save it. I'm gonna save it for next week.
Yeah, just next week with the holiday, and I'm away.
Right. By the way,
yes,
happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Mike!
Thank you.
Right. We're not gonna be able to say it next week because you won't be on. So we're off next week.
We're off next week. We'll be back the following week, going strong.
That's right. All right. So we'll be back in about 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. So maybe Carlos Rodon will be back. Aaron Judge will get his RP injection.
Oh.
Stanton will be on the IL for the 4th time this year.
And they just made a major trade to get Aaron Hicks back.
And they got Aaron Hicks because the Orioles figured out why he couldn't hit, but the Yankees can't.
Thanks, guys. It was awesome being on the show again. I appreciate the honor and the privilege to talk with you guys.
Great having you, Steve. Always. You're always welcome. Come anytime.
You guys do an awesome job. Keep it up.
Definitely appreciate it. All right, everyone. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
See you.